Hello, welcome to Back of the Net. This is the big match preview on what is Coronation Weekend. Hopefully, Cherries have a royally good time. That was a good one, Tom, wasn't it?
Very good, mate, yeah. We'll dethrone Chelsea, no problem.
Oh, I like it. Hopefully we can put in a King good performance. King, do you like that?
Yeah.
We'll leave it there. However, welcome to the preview. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
And there's loads to fit in. Look, we'll only keep you about half an hour. How's that? It's going to be an action-packed preview. What better way to spend a Friday? And Chelsea, Tom, they're always a nice team to play, aren't they?
I don't mind it at all, mate. Don't mind it at all.
Apart from if you play them after Christmas. Should we look back at what happened?
Oh, yeah.
Dreadful. The curtain's up near Chelsea, and we're here with Ryan Frank, brother of Kieran. Ryan, how are you, mate? How was your flight over?
Yeah, it was good. A lot of sleep, which was good. A bit of jet lag, but yeah, just before Christmas, good Christmas, and now the big event.
Yeah, it's West London again, which worked for us last year. I think Potter is struggling as a coach to get a load of superstars to play with him, to play to his style, and I think they all think they're better than he is. He's had 4 weeks off to work with them. Maybe that'll help. Maybe they'll be more cohesive as a unit, but hopefully we might catch him on that bad run of form still. You never know.
Did Father Christmas give you everything that you wanted, or is that going to be reserved for today?
Yeah, if he brings me 3 points today, yeah, we'll be happy. Well, 1 point, I'll take 1 point.
It's quietly confident. I think a few injuries, World Cup, they haven't been able to work on things, the players at the World Cup, and I'm quietly confident about our potential. See the lineups in a bit, but I'd back us in.
It's rainy, it's cold, it's wet. Yeah, so not particularly good. That was Gary O'Neill's first Premier League match permanently in charge of AFC Bournemouth, and it was a drab 2-0 defeat at Stamford Bridge. And Chelsea, no great shakes. They're a good side, but now I'm looking back thinking, given their form, we should have got a result there, because they weren't that great on the day either, were they?
No, and obviously their manager ended up getting sacked. It was Potter at the time, but yeah, I remember after the game thinking, a lot of people were saying, oh, we improved a bit the second half, but for me, we turned up there thinking it's Chelsea, and we didn't really, they were 2-0 up, and then we huffed and puffed second half. But yeah, it was a disappointing one for me. I thought we could have lost the game before we even got started. And frustrating, because we've seen since, and we know from previous, that we can get a few shocks in this league. We're a good side, but we had a few players out, and yeah, it wasn't a good one, mate. It was quite comfortable for them, probably the most comfortable win they've had for a long time, to be honest.
And it kick-started a very poor run for AFC Bournemouth, and which culminated in everyone saying, Gary O'Neill, he's got to go! He's got to go! Oops. Maybe shot a bolt a little bit with that. But also Chelsea, I mean, their form hasn't been great. We're going to look at that later on. Now, we'll look back at Chelsea's form since the turn of the year. It's not been particularly great, but it's fair to say, Tom, they've had a pretty turbulent season, haven't they? Wow.
Yeah, it's been really bizarre. I remember right at the start of the season when we went to the overlap, and Gary Neville saying it's like they're playing Football Manager here, Todd Bowley. I don't know. It's not only the playing staff in terms of they spent over £500,000 on when they already had a good squad, and then obviously the changes in managers. But it's also he's got rid of everyone from the medical staff to I think the groundsman to like everything, and it is very bizarre, and it's a weird one that hasn't obviously has culminated in an awful season for them. I mean, the talent on the pitch, I saw them the other night against Arsenal, and if you actually look at it player for player, you think they've got a hell of a team. Yeah. And then you watch them and they're horrific. I mean, to be fair, Chelsea have got previous of throwing managers under the bus and not turning up. They have done that a few times. But yeah, it's a really bizarre one. But equally, you get someone in there that can kind of get hold of things a little bit next season. They could suddenly be pushing for top 4, top 3, I think, because of the calibre of player they've got and the size of the squad. It's just not worked so far for a mate, and that's why they're level on points with a team like Bournemouth.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fair to say they've had, Thomas Tuchel, now Frank Lampard, who, I don't know, I'll be asking later on your opinions of those two managers, but also the manager that's the sandwich in the middle of the sandwich, Graham Potter. I think he's got the right ideas, but for some reason it didn't work, and I'll probably ask you why later on in the show. Let's take a look at the league table now. There it is. Please. It's not bad, is it? AFC Bournemouth sat there, look at that. That's a beautiful league position to be in 13th. And where are Chelsea? Let's scroll up. Oh, we'd have to scroll up too far. One place, which means, Tom, that a win and we could overtake Chelsea. And it's not inconceivable that we could actually finish above them this season, which would represent a huge season for us.
It would. I got a feeling we won't catch them up on goal difference. No. But apart from that, I mean, you look at their fixtures, got some tough fixtures as well. I think they've got us and then Forest, who I know you'd say that's a banker, but Forest are fighting for their lives. And then I think they have got some tough ones. I think they might have Newcastle, and they've got some tough fixtures. So definitely not inconceivable, mate. And probably a good time to play them as well. So we're in a positive space after just virtually securing our Premier League status. So on form and on kind of that feel good factor, they're not going to be massive favourites for this game, in my opinion. No. So it'll be interesting. I almost would rather be on the road with our away form. But I'm looking forward to this one, mate, and certainly don't think it's a banker for Chelsea. Definitely not.
So Chelsea fans, look, if you're travelling down, it's going to be 13 degrees, overcast. There's going to be 70% chance of drizzle, so there's going to be some rain. But safe travels. Trains are running, which is good. If you're looking for away pubs in Boscombe, which is about a 15-minute walk from the ground, you've got Mellow and Moroys. But if you get off at Folkestone Station, just before Bournemouth, there's the Bell as well. It's a mixed pub, beer garden as well. And then a few doors down from that, in off the far post, which is a football paraphernalia shop, memorabilia. There's got loads of stuff there. Check it out. Say hi to Paul. Tell them that we sent you as well. And there's loads of Chelsea stuff. It's not Bournemouth. There's all sorts of stuff, programs, shirts, you name it, they got it. So check it out. Why not subscribe to our channel as well, Tom? Because there's a whole weekend of content, not just this preview.
No, there will be. There'll be obviously fan cams after the game, so which Chelsea fans more than welcome to join us for. It's just by the 1910 Club Bar after the game, where we'll get the instant reactions, and then you'll edit together a nice little match day vlog for everyone. Hopefully it'll be a nice one for us.
Hopefully. Then
we'll go into more detail with a second look about the game itself, and then we'll have the we got away day reviews and all sorts. You have to, if you haven't watched it already, we've done a little away day review on Chelsea. So it'd be interesting to see how you fared against other London clubs and rivals. But loads of content, mate.
Loads of content. So look, Chelsea, we will be talking about you in more depth because we feel as though we can sink our teeth into this one. And Tom's got a few words to say about Frank the Fraud Lampard. Oh, did I say that? Look. Maybe. We'll talk about him later in the show. Firstly, Tom, we need to just talk about quickly, we've already done a second look after the Leeds game. You will have seen a tweet from Mark McAdam at full time, which came across to some as rather scathing, where he put a few Bournemouth fans in their place and said that some of the criticism was unjust. One thing we clarified on an interview in the week, that he wasn't talking about all criticism. No. You're allowed to criticise, but clown emojis, Osama bin Laden, change hashtags, changing your profile picture, all that kind of stuff. However, what was your reaction to that interview? Because you saw it on Tuesday as soon as it was released. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought Mark, as always, we know he's a top guy and he come across really well, made some really good points, I thought. And totally, obviously agree with all the stuff in terms of abuse, and could totally appreciate that. I think sometimes as well, Mark said openly that he's not that big on social media and things like that, and wasn't aware you could quote tweet him and all that stuff. So he's probably not aware, not that it's right, but this happens absolutely constantly at every football club, this sort of abuse, which is not right, of course it's not. But I think Mark probably was so shocked because he doesn't look into it in too much detail. Every club will have it. I'll get it, you'll get it, the channel will get it. It is unfortunately the way it is at the moment, and Twitter need to do more about it, to be honest with you, in particular. But yeah, I totally agree with most of the points. There's a few in there, of course, that I thought more like a caveat then.
Go on.
So thought you made a decent point in terms of, I can't remember what games, but you said during that run we had people like Adu Ajayi on the subs bench, Ben Greenwood, and but it's all right to pick that out, but then didn't mention where we lost games where Kiefer Moore couldn't even make the bench because our bench was so good. So there's always a caveat.
And there were also teams that we played within that run where they had their star men out as well, yet they still found enough to beat us.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then we, you can always caveat, and that's the thing. So then you go, well, when we had the good run, such and such didn't have that player, and then you start going into that. We beat Fulham, they didn't have Mitrovic though. So there's always a point of that, but I understand Mark was making that point during the bad run. But yeah, a few little things. Don't know who the final decision was up to, but I remember when we had that weaker subs bench, I remember thinking, well, it was the club's decision to name Junior Stanislas in the squad, who's not going to kick a ball. It was our decision to name Darren Randolph in the squad. He's not going to kick a ball. And it was our decision to let Ben Pearson, Jamal Lowe, Siriki Dembele go out on loan where they would have been on that bench, and then you wouldn't have had Adu Ajayi on the bench, for example. But yeah, there's caveats all over the place, mate. To be honest,
we seem to let those players out early in January and then get them in towards the end of January. So there were a number of games there where we were bereft. But
it's one of them things, mate. It's to and fro. But the fact of the matter is, we went on a bad run for whatever reason, and then we've got a good run in at the right time. And there's certainly points to be made on how, getting Tavernier back fit, Solanke was out for a bit, getting some of them signings in at the right time, and certain bits that have obviously really, really helped us. And people like Mark were obviously very optimistic that once we got them players back and once we got through this difficult patch, that we could accumulate the points. I was certainly concerned, and certainly didn't see us gaining enough points to make up for that bad run. But the fact of the matter is, mate, we did. There were enough teams down there that couldn't pull them runs together, and that's why we're safe now. And absolutely delighted. And people like Mark, that positivity has obviously proven correct. So absolutely buzzing.
There were a few things that in hindsight I wanted to pull him up on, because he said that there were a few games we played where the other teams were lucky, like for instance the Brighton, very late goal, and there were other games he talked about. But then in the same breath, you could also say that we were lucky to get that last minute goal at Spurs, the solitary strike. It felt like only one strike on goal at Wolves, which won us the game, and those could have easily worked differently. But the fact is, you can only look at the results at the end of the season and look, or at a more advanced part of the season, and we are where we are. There is a bit of luck, I'm sure, but a lot of it is down to some very, very hard work from Gary, who has been rewarded, Tom, we learn, with a nomination. Manager of the month.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I wanted to get it. It's a bit of a curse, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we got Gary Nill's in there alongside the likes of Eddie Howe. So really pleased for Gary. Oh, he's earned that, hasn't he? I mean, he's got to have a good chance of winning that, in my opinion. Actually, if you look at the month, I think we've won all the away games and stuff. So it's very, very impressive.
Eddie's probably won one already this season.
I would have thought so. Without looking, just give it a gas.
It's fine for us to have one. Give it a gas.
Yeah, he's definitely earned that. And then I think Dom Solanke's in for Player of the Month. Saw a really good stat actually. Just while I'm thinking about it, it was from the other 14, and it was about how many players in the team have scored 5 or more goals, and we're right at the top. I can't remember, it was just about, I think we were second, and a lot of them have got only one because they've got a main goal scorer, and everyone said about we haven't got that 20 goal a season striker in Solanke. But if we didn't have Solanke and replaced him with a 20 goal a season striker, would we get the goals from elsewhere? That's what I think. Sometimes you have a player like that means you get goals spread out a bit more, which we've managed to do. You've only got to look at someone like Fulham. Once they've lost their main man in Mitrovic, and do you know what I mean? When you've got goals from elsewhere because you've got a striker that allows other players to get involved, I think it can also be really helpful. So pleased for Dom, and then Tavernier's also in for goal of the month with that strike against Fulham. So
I was about to say, it's not the Southampton goal, is it?
No. So we're nominations in all of the categories, mate, which is nice to see.
Nice to see. Okay, let's check out the form table then. Look at that, Bournemouth, a top 10 side. There we are. This is based on the last 6 games. It would be better if it was based on the last 5, because that would be 4 out of 5. But we're currently 7th, as you can see. And then at the bottom, Chelsea.
So there's only one team below Chelsea?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Saints, mate.
Right.
You know what? It's mad. If the season was like 50 games long or 45 games long, Chelsea could be down there. I think they've got enough, but
Well, if Lampard was given more time, he could get 2 teams relegated this season.
yeah, why not? But yeah, Bournemouth there, 7th. It's so good to see, and what that does to the baseline tracker table. That win at Southampton meant that we went from -3 to 0. If we get a win against Chelsea, we'll go up, because whilst home wins are counted as a default, they are a top 6 side. They are outside the other 14. I don't know what they're going to do next season. Is it the top 6 or big 6? Chelsea might even be in with the other 14.
Because Newcastle are on +30.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so we'd be on +3 if we get the win. So then, since that victory that Chelsea got against us after Christmas, under Potter, they won 3 league games, they drew 5, and they lost 5. The last defeat for him was at home on the 1st of April against Aston Villa, where Potter saw his side beaten 2-0. A day later, he was sacked. What we're going to do, Tom, is take a look at the results since we played them, and you can just maybe talk me through this, because usually we'd go over the last sort of couple of months or whatever, but I think there's a bigger story to tell based on how they've done. I don't expect you to talk about every single game and what happened in each. I'm sure you probably could with your depth of knowledge. However, I mean, it all started in January with Forest, one of the sides that are in the bottom 3, and drawing there.
Yeah, it's a weird one. A lot of people are saying that if Forest are to stay up, it's their home form. So it wasn't a massive shock, weirdly, but they only drew there. They only narrowly lost to City, so you thought, okay, and then they got battered to them in the Cup shortly after. But then it was, I remember watching that Fulham game, I think it was an evening game, and they lost at Fulham and they looked horrific. I don't think Fulham even had Mitrovic available that game. And they looked awful. Got the win over Palace, which kind of pumped them up, and then a decent draw at Anfield, which obviously we know is a tough place to go. But yeah, then they just kept kind of sneaking a few draws, which weren't good enough against like West Ham and stuff. Went out to Dortmund and lost the away leg there, but returned by winning the home leg, and you thought that could pick them up. I think they lost to Tottenham in there, didn't they? Yeah, lost to Tottenham.
Southampton.
Oh God, yeah.
At home, losing to Saints. I mean, that's no good, is it?
And that killed us. Luckily, they beat Leicester. But then, drawn at home to Everton. And then you mentioned Potter's last one was that defeat against Villa. And then they got the draw against Liverpool. And you thought, okay, Potter's gone now, maybe they can get a bit of a bounce here. And then that didn't culminate. They lost at Wolves, which is a game they've got to be getting at least something out of. Got beat comfortably at Real Madrid, which anyone could do, to be fair. Home defeat to Brighton, home defeat to Brentford. I mean, it's just been atrocious. And every time you think they're going to pick up again, and I kind of had this feeling of everyone's, they're losing every game under Lampard, and I thought they're playing Arsenal when Arsenal have just kind of conceded the title. It feels like, could this be a check? They were 3-0 down after half hour and looked absolutely atrocious, mate. So yeah, it's been really, really poor for them. Lampard obviously yet to get a win. And to be honest, I think it's weirdly meant that Potter's kind of, his kind of reputation, if you like, is still intact. Because since if Lampard had come in and they had a bounce, you go, it was just Potter got it wrong, he's not ready for that kind of job. But I think because they've looked even worse since Potter's gone, it's like, it's enough. Everyone's kind of now going, well, Chelsea's a mess, there's nothing to do with Potter. So I think it's almost helped him in a weird way. But yeah, the decision to just get Lampard in, who they've sacked not long ago, he went to Everton and got sacked there, is a weird one.
Do you feel for Potter a little bit, or because he's obviously a long-term manager that likes to build up things organically, but the danger of joining a big club is that the owners have always got a shorter fuse than they have at a smaller club. And no disrespect to Brighton, I mean, maybe you could argue that at the moment they're the bigger club, but long term they're not. But he was always under pressure to get things done quickly, and when you're not getting results, then sadly. For him, he has to go. What were your thoughts on that appointment? You could see why they were doing it, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, it was a weird one, because I think from Potter's perspective, he probably felt like he couldn't turn it down, which I appreciate. But I remember at the time thinking, he's taking a gamble there, because new owners, and you could see what they were doing in the window and clearing everyone out, like I said. And I just thought, he ain't gonna, if it goes bad, he ain't gonna get time there. He ain't gonna get time there, and he's building something at Brighton. So, as you say, Brighton ain't too bothered at the moment. But it was a really big gamble from Potter, and I think he probably, in hindsight, he probably shouldn't have taken it. But I appreciate what he did. It was a weird one because I thought, well, Bowley's obviously going to give this guy time, but he clearly wasn't. So yeah, very, very strange, but just didn't work out. I never thought, I always felt whoever got that job after Tuchel wasn't going to last long because all the players they were bringing in, and it was all a bit chaotic. So
Bruno Salter got the job after he was he was he was in charge for the game against Liverpool at home, which Tom's talked about, which was a 0-0, and then at that point, Frank Lampard, who's he's a legend on the pitch.
Absolutely.
Off the pitch, though, I mean, his management career, at Derby, it wasn't even glittering, was it?
No, I don't.
Bizarre.
I think people look at it now because Derby have obviously had their money issues and are in League One, but I think people are quite quick to forget that that was their last chance of trying to get back up, and they had Mason Mount, Fikayo Tomori, who's at AC Milan and stuff, in that Derby team, and he didn't improve them. Obviously, went to Chelsea, done okay in terms of the transfer embargo, but he did have a very good squad there anyway. And then obviously, as soon as the kind of big names come in, he couldn't cope. Went to Everton, kind of felt like he saved them, and then they were awful. For sure. I mean, as I say, I think at the moment it's a mess at Chelsea, and it's not Lampard's. Not all on Lampard for sure. He had a horrible situation to come into, and he couldn't really turn it down. It was a no-brainer for him because he wasn't really getting a job elsewhere because of his run. But I don't really get it, man. I don't get how I feel for lower league managers that are earning their trade, to be honest with you, and not getting opportunities when he's getting a job because of how he was on the pitch, and that he's a legend as a footballer, because he hasn't got a good TV. I think they were joking on TalkSport saying Jamie O'Hara's probably got a better managerial record than Billericay.
Do you feel as though it must be weird for the players, though? Because these players, season in, season out, most of them are involved in some kind of end-of-season scrap for Europe. This is one of the only seasons where, for a while now, it's been like there's nothing to play for. Absolutely nothing to play for. It doesn't really matter whether they are one position higher and they get an extra 2 million when you've got a loaded owner. What's the motivation here? There probably isn't any.
And they're giving players like, I think that Mudryk, he's like a young 22-year-old, and they're giving him like an 8-year contract, so mental. I mean, it's hard then to tell him to, and they all know Lampard ain't staying, so why are they going to play for him? They think, we'll just start again next season. This doesn't affect us. So.
And rumours of Pochettino, maybe?
Yeah, I think that would be a good appointment for him. I mean, Tottenham have got a lot of ex-Chelsea managers, so it's probably about time that Chelsea went and done that. But I think he's the manager you saw at Tottenham and at Southampton as well, to be fair to him, that he can build something, he can get a feel-good factor around. I mean, he never won anything at Tottenham, which they're obviously used to anyway, but they would all tell you they would be happy to have him back because it just feels good to have him around the place. He brings everyone together. You've only got to look at some of the kind of careers of people that he got a lot out of in terms of like your Dele Allis, that he managed to get them loving their football and plays an exciting way. And I think if Bowley allows him to just get on with the football inside, I think he'll develop something there. And he's also got a bit of experience now with working with kind of bigger egoed players in terms of when he went to PSG. Yeah. So he'd be a really good appointment for him. It looks like that one's going to happen, and I think, like I say, it wouldn't shock me if next season Chelsea are top four again.
Yeah,
it's because of the wealth of talent they've got.
In terms of interim manager, I mean, interim managers, aren't not culpable. For instance, Stellini has been relieved of his duties for Spurs. Could this be like? I don't know what the stats are, and I'd love to know if there are any stats about. We seem to play teams and get managers sacked more than most I've seen, because we've done it a lot of times.
I feel like we've done it twice with Chelsea.
Yeah.
I feel like Mourinho definitely got the sack when we went there and won 1-0, and then I think we might have even got Conte the chop at one point. Not 100% sure, but
there have been others as well. It's like, is this another chance?
Yeah, it could be. And Leeds have just really recently. So it's the only difference is I just think, what's the point? Unless Pochettino.
No point.
Is done, and they go, do you want to take over for the last few games? Just whatever. But there's no real point. I mean, nothing's going to happen for Chelsea now. What's the point? And I do wonder if, because Lampard is, Chelsea at heart, and that's his club. I wonder if they've kind of almost got him in now and gone almost on like a spy mission of get in there, tell me who the bad eggs are. Kind of feed back to the club because he's such a legend there, and they'll trust him because he wants Chelsea to do well. But
what's his next job?
I really don't know.
Management or downgrade to a coach with it?
I think I'm fortunate. I do think he'll still get a decent job. I don't know why, but I do still believe it.
Probably Watford will come calling.
Someone like that wouldn't shock me, or Watford or West Brom. And it's similar to I think Parker would probably get a similar job as well. I think he'll still get a championship job and try. And he could end up being a decent manager, a decent coach. But at the moment, there's nothing to show for that, in my opinion. But But yeah, it remains to be seen, mate. But it hasn't worked at this stage.
Let's check out our head-to-head record then. In all league games at Dean Court, AFC Bournemouth against Chelsea have won 2, drawn 1, lost 3. In all competitions, won 5, drawn 1, lost 11. It's fair to say that
not bad considering the two clubs.
Our duels against them have only started relatively recently. There were a few pre-Premier League, as we can see. Can you remember the last time we played them at Dean Court, mate? It's not on screen here, so can you remember?
I'm sure I do, because it was was it the last home game before COVID?
It was.
Yes, so it was 2-2.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the other goal. Lerma scored, definitely.
He scored a header, correct.
And Marcus Alonso got both their goals.
Correct, yeah.
That was weird, so I remember that. I don't know who scored another goal, which could annoy me.
It's fitting, being Coronation Weekend, that it was...
King.
Josh King?
Okay, Josh King was it. I can't remember that goal, but yeah, Lerma's was a header from a corner, I remember.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And Alonso scored late, but it was a decent point for us at the time, yeah.
Love that from you, mate. Yeah,
it was the last game before. Was that our last game or our last home game?
No, we had a Liverpool after that as well.
Away, yeah.
And that was where they decided, actually, let's circumvent this by not having handshakes, because that's gonna prevent COVID.
Oh yeah, and that was the treat, because COVID was never a thing after that.
Yeah, exactly. Right, on to team news. Tom's got the teams that he thinks are going to happen in a very short while. Of course, we know that Chris Mepham, he missed the Leeds United game due to a thigh injury. We also know that Kiefer Moore left the field with a head injury, slight concussion. That's why we were allowed to make the extra sub. Maybe that contributed to the fact that he headed it over the bar rather than in the goal. Kiefer, you could do better. Otherwise, we know that Tavernier is probably likely to be out. It seems that Gary Neal's alluded to the fact that now we've got time to let him rest.
Yeah, I think it'll be. Even though we all love Tav and he's been brilliant for us, I think it will be mad now to play him at all, to be honest. Just let him recover now and get ready for pre-season, because he's so crucial to us. And yeah, if it's another hamstring as well, so there's no point of rushing him back. So I wouldn't have thought we'd see him again this season until he hopefully comes on the pitch against United and gives us all a wave, because he's been crucial to us. But luckily, we're in a position now where we can afford to just allow him his time.
Yeah, and in terms of Chelsea team news, well, before team news, I suppose, let's talk about their transfer window, mate. They
got enough time?
Have we got enough time? It's supposed to be a half-hour show here. We might be going a bit over, but they got a few through the door, and for a fair bit of money.
Well, first they went for a bargain and just got Enzo Fernandez in for 105 million. So just a cheap one in there. I mean, there's someone called Malo Gusto that they brought in. I don't even know who he is, to be honest. He hasn't kicked the ball.
I thought that was one of those kits you can cook meals at home.
I think the one I'm interested to see, because I thought in the Arsenal game, he got the goal, and best player by a mile was Noni Madueke, who's still a young player. He was like over 30 million quid, so he wasn't cheap, but he wasn't one of the massive names. He's one that seems to be proving himself a little bit, so he'll be one to watch. Obviously, I mentioned Mudryk. He was only about 88 million, to be fair, so yeah, another cheap one for him. Badiashile, which I think I've pronounced pretty well there. He was a centre half coming. Obviously, they got Felix in on a loan, which I think they spent nearly 10 million quid just to get him on a loan.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they got a few in, mate. Yeah. Fofana as well. They've got a couple of Fofanas now. So yeah, they got a few over the door, in through the door, having already got a lot in. So yeah, it's all a bit of a mess there, to be honest with you. But listen, they are still quality footballers. I think Enzo Fernandez is still a very good footballer, and Mudryk, I think there'll still be more to come from him, definitely, because I've seen a few little...
Needs to be.
Yeah, there's been a few little kind of cameos that I thought, there's something in him, but it hasn't quite worked yet, and the fee is always going to... I remember when we used to think, the fee on Ranty has affected him. Yeah. The fact we spent 3 million on him has affected him, I mean, so if that's going to be the case, what's 88 and 100 million going to do? So yeah, a lot of money, but they're still young players. So
we know there's been a number of players out, including Mason Mount, Brozier, Cucurella, Koulibaly, Reece James, Marcus Bettinelli, so yes, it'll be interesting to see what team is fielded for Chelsea. We're going to have a stab at it very, very shortly.
If I get theirs bang on, I need to get some sort of bonus.
Yeah, I think, maybe.
Because that is mental if I get Chelsea's team
maybe we could do so. Who's your man to look out for if there are? I mean, you've got a free reign at this, mate. Pick from whoever you want.
Briefly mentioned Madueke, just because I think he's a decent player and I think he's playing well at the moment. Kante will cover a lot of ground if he plays. But we've got, from a Bournemouth perspective, I think we've got to say Sterling, because he's got a bloody good record.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
He's one of, I haven't got the actual stat, but he's one of them players that scored the most goals against Bournemouth out of
him and Kane have got to be able to sell out,
He's got hat-tricks against us I think he's scored goals for City and for Liverpool against us, a lot of goals. So he's one of them players that just seems to turn up and like playing Bournemouth. So because of that, we've got to watch him, and also because he's a bloody good player on his day. So yeah, we've got to watch out for Raheem, mate.
Do you know who the referee is?
Couldn't give a shit.
Really?
Yeah.
It's John Brooks.
Cool.
He's our referee. Again, he's taken 3 of our 4 games so far this season. Home games in the league against Southampton, but also against Liverpool.
Oh.
And
He gave him a penalty though.
Yeah,
Liverpool.
and away at Newcastle United. So
What, the league game?
in the League Cup.
Oh, in the League Cup. I was going to say, if it was the League, that was another penalty they got. But League Cup, okay. All right, whatever.
Yeah.
So are they all them games 1-0?
Yeah.
All 1-0s? All 1-0s.
There you go. There's a little cheeky prediction for you. Right, should we do teams?
Yeah.
Let's go. Right, Tom, 4-3-3 we've got, and we know that there are going to be some players out. What are you going for?
Yeah, 4-3-3 at Bournemouth, as we always say, it changes in game to a 3 because of the flexibility we've got in that 4. Neto will obviously be in goal. I think Smithy will play at right full-back. I think he'll stick with Senesi and Kelly, whether Mepham's back or not, and Stevens as well will probably be available, but I thought they looked okay. And Vina, who can obviously morph into that wing-back role, but I think he'll play because Kelly covers and allows Vina to come on. So I think that'll be the 4. Into the midfield 3, I think kind of that seems to pick itself at the moment. I think Lerma will be the deepest, Rothwell, and then Billin obviously trying to get further forward. The front 3, I'm going to stick with, I think Christie's been immense, hasn't he? So I'm going to stick with him. I'm going to stick with, Dango Batara. I think he played well. I do think he played well in the last game, so I'll stick with him in there. With obviously Dom Solanke against his former club leading the line. That's how I think we'll go. We don't know if there's bumps and bruises at this point in the season, Gary will definitely change it because there's kind of less risk now because of our position and points total. But that's how I'm going to go, mate. Yeah.
How would this morph into a 3, or can it really? Can this go to a 3?
It kind of can because you can.
But what, bring Lerma back deeper? Or?
Well, you can shuffle Smithy
Yeah.
inside with Senesi and Kelly and have Vina and kind of a Christie kind of more, just because Christie's work rate, you kind of get him doing that. It wouldn't shock me just because he hasn't had it lately if Jane Nantley maybe being chucked in there, just because I think this stage of the season, as I say, we can maybe give people a bit more of an opportunity, and Jaden's maybe earned it. Never let us down, and I thought a decent little cameo off the bench, but that's what I'm going to go with to start, mate.
Beautiful. Okay, as for Chelsea then, let's do them. And it's a 4-3-3, and this is obviously what you're going for. It might not be this side, but it might be.
Yeah, that's what I'll go with, mate. We'll stick with Kepa in goal. Obviously, with Reece James out, I think they're going to have to stick with Azpilicueta, right full back. I'll stick with Fofana and Silva at centre half. They could change that. They've got Badiashile as well, and Chalobah that could come in because I know Fofana come off in the last game, but I think he'll be all right. So him and Thiago Silva. Ben Chilwell at left back, that's he'll bomb on and cause problems, so he's one we've got to watch out for. I think the midfield 3 at the moment, they have got Conor Gallagher who could come in for this game, but I think the 3, and this is what I mean about it, you look at the quality in that 3.
Yeah, when you look at them individually, it's like
Enzo Fernandez, over 100 million quid, Kovacic, who obviously come from Real Madrid, and Kante, who we all know how good he is, so I think that'll be the 3. I do think Madueke will play, probably off that right side with Sterling, playing off the left. But I don't think they'll play Aubameyang. He was horrific against Arsenal, come off at half time. I think they'll go with Havertz. They could easily go with João Felix, but I think they'll go for Havertz for this one. So, yeah, that's how I line them up, mate. But as I say, I'll be surprised if I get it bang on. But let us know if there's any Chelsea fans. That's what I'm going to go with, mate.
Chelsea fans, if you're watching, let us know what your predicted team is in the comments below. But also, Bournemouth and Chelsea fans, what's your predicted scoreline? We really want to know. We'll be reading every single one, and we might be giving a heart to the ones that we ourselves agree with. So, what are you going for then, Tom?
Well, when we went to Southampton, I said, I'm not predicting a win because, we never do well there, so I'll predict a draw, and then we won. Yeah. And then we had Leeds at home, and I went, it worked against Southampton, so I'm going to pick a draw and hope we win.
Okay.
Draw. I'm going to go for what it was last time when they were here. Okay. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
A 2-2.
But I think we'll win.
All right. Okay. I think
draw,
that
we'll win.
I'm worried because I think their form at some point has got to come to an end, and
they can't lose 6.
We're the type of side that sometimes one way or another ends a team's form, either in a good way or a bad way. I'm going to, as John Bond is the referee, I'm going to go for a cheeky 1-0, mate. And I think it's going to be a dramatic game. I think there's probably going to be more drama than Coronation Street. That's not a very good joke, is it? But no, I think it's going to be a dramatic game. I think we'll get our first penalty this season.
Oh,
Yeah, that's my prediction,
got
and
to
a
get
1-0 win. That's what I'm
Solanke.
going for. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. And remember to like and subscribe, because the full-time fan cams will be uploaded, and this time I'm going to try and do it before 6 o'clock. How's about that?
blimey! God, good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Other cherries. See you at Decor.
Bye. Oh, some royally shit puns there.
God, they were good.